I'm understand street niggas, we ain't really comfortable with all of that thing. I know what you're trying to say.
Do what you do, baby.
Yeah, I want congrats. I seen to come up through the mud. You feel me?
Real
Yeah, I'm saying, like I said, I used to be top. I'm one of the ones. When that nigga said he had a phone, his whole joke, and I'm looking at the screen like preach, cause I was on the phone with him. You feel me? So you know what I'm saying?
embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here, you bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people on television say the dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump will give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah, thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy, look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists, they have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you called this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it. because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses.
I know she killing
address
him.
bringing down the price of
She
groceries.
killing him, dog. Damn,
American
Trump.
people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political.
I know
And
she
I'm winning
is.
most of them.
She
I'm
is
gonna win the rest of
stepping
them.
on him,
And you saw
dog.
that with the decision that came down just recently.
look
from the Supreme
older.
Court. I'm winning
He
most of
look
them.
like he
But
is.
those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases,
She look
and
like
then
Ivy.
they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're
President Trump.
fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice
Uh-huh.
President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this
He,
election
yeah,
is
he
taking
lose.
place.
He is
The
getting
United
his
States
ass
Supreme
whooped.
Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald
He
Trump were
know
back
he
in the
getting
White
his
House
ass
with
whooped,
no
though.
guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Vice President
stop
Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy. It was a
President
fake Russia
We
investigation
do a lot to
that
get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Before they get
Vice
that man
President
a
Harris, in
minute.
your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your
No, you
campaign
don't.
says you
Right.
don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every
Nah,
point
don't
that you've
stutter
made.
now,
But in
bitch.
particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the
What's
time-breaking
fracking,
vote on
y'all?
the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My
What is
position
that?
is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who
There she
worked
go.
and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to
I
work with the
know.
private sector and home
She
builders
whooping
to
his
increase
ass.
3 million homes, increased by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions.
Yeah.
And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
What?
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of.
Yes,
Now
did,
she wants to
bitch.
do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But
That's
if she won the
inflation,
election, the
Trump.
day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, or we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things for the
that we have to
environment.
Shut up,
do.
bitch. Let that man
Thank
talk.
you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television
hell.
from the Oval Office. You did send out
It
tweets
looked like
that
he got
was
like
more than 2
jet
hours
lag
before
or
you sent
something.
out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I asked, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes,
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did
I
their
know
job.
he talking
I
in
wasn't
circles.
responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there.
She,
And on that day,
somebody fact check.
somebody
Somebody fact check that.
to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's
Because this is my
capital.
first time hearing that. She would have been said that. Somebody fact check that.
And some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page.
He got this
And if
bitch
that was a
looking,
bridge too far,
man.
there's a place
This bitch done
in
made up a
our
slogan and
campaign
everything.
to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart
This
a
bitch
course
done made a whole slogan, y'all.
and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
What's down? What's down?
it was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where Bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol.
Come
Why
on,
are we
Trump.
allowing
Cook, Trump.
these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do.
You
And I
keep
would be very
going to
proud
that,
I
though.
would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous.
You the
Go
one
down to
asked for this
Washington,
debate,
D.C.,
Trump,
and
bro.
let her
Stop.
sign
Come on
a
now,
bill to
Trump.
close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill.
Yeah.
If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President.
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote,
They
"You
are
lost by a
attacking
whisker,"
my
that
dude,
you
man.
quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in
No, I
2020?
don't acknowledge it at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say it.
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. And we said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval.
Come
I got
on, Trump,
75
bro.
million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisper. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Which
They
will include
attacking
long-term
Trump
prison
on
sentences.
you know what I'm saying?
One of your campaign's top lawyers responded
Right.
saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing
That's
that.
what I'm running for.
But
Who?
we cannot
Kamala?
afford to
Kamala?
have a president of the
She
United
killing
States
him, right?
who
She winning.
attempts,
Yeah, she
as he
winning,
did
man.
in the
I'm telling everybody to be the
past,
first
to
one.
upend
Be
the
messing with.
will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you
That's
then
it, that's
talk
hearsay.
in this way in a
That's
presidential
hearsay.
debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr.
And
President.
let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him.
Cook, Trump.
I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all
Cook,
over
Trump.
Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man
That's facts.
that you saw at a
That's
debate
facts.
just a few months ago,
That's
that if
facts.
he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14
Cook.
million votes, and they
Cook,
threw him
Trump.
out of office. And
Cook.
you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They
Nah,
threw
you
him
let
out.
her,
She got 0
You let her hear
votes.
shit,
And
let
when
him
she
do
ran,
it too.
She was the first one to leave.
Yeah,
because
they're against Trump.
and now she's running.
They're
I don't
against
understand
Trump.
it, but I'm okay with it because
Your time
I
is up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well,
All of
let's
this is
understand how we
hearsay.
got here. On October
All
7th,
of this is hearsay.
Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians
She
have been
is
killed.
Cooking
Children,
this
mothers.
nigga, man.
What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we
It
need
must
a
win or
ceasefire deal, and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be
Who is
security
we?
for the Israeli people
Get
and
the
Israel, and
hostages
an
out
equal
that's
measure
from the
for the
United States and
Palestinians.
mind y'all
But the one
fucking
thing I will
business,
assure
man.
you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started.
Uh,
If I were president,
Cook, Trump.
Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well,
Yep.
he would have never, and there was no threat
Yep.
of it either, by the way, for 4 years,
Facts.
have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there.
Facts.
But when she
Who lives in
mentions
the White
about
House?
Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu
Cook,
when he went to
nigga.
Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers.
Cook,
She
nigga.
wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money.
Horrible
It was
terror.
a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened.
Nope.
I will get that settled and
Nope.
fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming
Because he
president.
fuck with
Vice
them.
President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
Yes, man.
That's absolutely not true. I have
Look at her
my
neck,
entire
man.
career
Ugh.
in life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that he's trying to again divide and distract from the reality,
We don't know nothing.
which is it is very well known
We don't know nothing.
that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy.
Now you lying.
It is well known
Now you
that
lying.
he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well
He just fuck
known
with the
that
big.
he said of Putin
She weak.
that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia
that
went
man
into
smoke.
Ukraine, it was brilliant.
That's that man smoke.
It is
Don't
well
why
known
you why
he
you out of that man
exchanged
business?
love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace.
Here shit. Here say.
That is why
Here
we
say.
understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and
Nah,
respecting
y'all be telling Trump shut up. No, bitch, you
Vice
shut up
President
too.
Harris, thank you.
And she's the one that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month
Cook.
for the year, 168 different countries
Hmm.
sending people into our country.
Cook.
Their crime rates are way down.
Stop shaking your head. No.
Putin endorsed
Because
her
it is
last
true.
week. Said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it
Cook.
because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that
Talk
they're
about it.
weak and incompetent, and
That's
they
true.
are. They're
All facts, no
grossly
copies.
incompetent. And I just asked one
He
question.
cooking.
Why does Biden
He
go
cooking.
and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and
Yep.
they're ineffective.
Yup.
And Biden, by the way, gets
President
paid
Trump.
a lot of money.
Thank
Uh-huh.
you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Got my tape while they take a little break. Let me tell y'all something. Fresh of the brand. Fresh of the brand. What the fuck it is? You good now? You straight? You straight? Well, man. Yeah. All right, so this is my take. You remember this is my take so far, right? I'm not gonna say they being biased, right? But they are being more harsh on Trump.
You know what I'm saying? Especially the chick out of the attitude. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm not gonna say that they're showing bias, but the little chick is clear she's against Trump. With the answers, I can't lie, right? Trump started cooking at the end, right? But to me, Kamala is she is going with everything that they attack him with, and that's how you're supposed to do it. You see what I'm saying? But I think that both of them are reaching. You see what I'm saying? In some things, like if you was gonna take a court appearance or court stance to this, circumstantial evidence not gonna hold up. You see what I'm saying? Hearsay not gonna hold up. Speculation not gonna hold up. I think they both are being mature. I think they are both handling each other's answers well. But if I was to put somebody in the lead, I would say I can't hate. I would say Kamala is getting him so far. But on the last couple of topics, Trump started getting his win. I'm not gonna make no excuses for Trump, but he did just get into Philly, so it may be jet lag. But he looks exhausted. He does look like he has aged. But Kamala has a lot of makeup on, so you gotta go with that too. But Trump does look like he has aged. Kamala made a good point with whenever she said he goes to court in November, he go to court. You see what I'm saying? She made a good point about that, and if he wins, then he will not be able to still trial. I think that Kamala made a good point with his former staff down talking them, but I think that his response to that with the okay, well, that's the ones that I fired, and he could have went about the rest of the answer the wrong way, because he was like, if y'all want change, y'all want change. I fired people. I made change. The points that he made with the people who haven't been fired and stuff is going wrong, those are true. But I think he took the wrong approach with that. I think that he should have took the if y'all want change so much, then this is the same administration and this and that. You see what I'm saying? I think that Trump is trying to get leverage with Trump. I think that Trump is trying to get leverage with the border thing, but I think that he's already made his point on that, and you can't make your point any more than he's made it. And I think that Trump is spending too much time on that particular subject. You know what I'm saying? Is back on? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, with the news that's going around, should he touch on that? Yes. But at the same time, you heard me, I think that he's overdoing it. You see what I'm saying? It's a lot more. Is back on? All right, tell me when they start talking. Mm-hmm. So I think that he needs to, whatever they, I think it's like, like a heavyweight fight, like, you know what I'm saying, they're in their corners. I think that his corner should advise him to kind of keep on that subject with the border control, how many criminals she let in. All right. But I think that he's really running that in the ground. You know what I'm saying?
This thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe, like I did with NATO. They made billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But
He cooking.
you take a look at what's happening.
This is
We're
the
in for
security.
250 to
The security. That's
275
where his
billion.
strength's
They're
at.
into
Protection.
100
That's where his strength at.
They should
Being
be
a strong
forced
leader.
to equalize.
That's where his
With that
strength's
being
at.
said,
And I think
I
that
wanna get
that's
the war
what he should.
settled. I know
I
Zelensky
think that
very
that's
well,
what he
and I
should
know
focus
Putin very well.
on.
I have a good relationship.
And that's
they
facts.
respect
That's
your
facts.
president.
That's
Okay,
facts.
they respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect
That's
him?
facts.
Why? For what reason? He
That's
hasn't
facts.
even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They
That's
don't even
facts.
try to get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled.
That's
I will
facts.
get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when
I
I'm
believe-
president-elect, and what I'll do
Because
is I'll
he's
speak to
sat
one,
down
I'll
with
speak
these
to the
people,
other, I'll
right?
get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when
And
I
it
saw him
has.
building up
It
soldiers,
has.
he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no
Right.
idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only
Right.
getting worse, and it could
Right.
lead to World War III.
These are his
Don't kid
strengths.
yourself, David.
These
We're
are
playing
his
with
strengths.
World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We
Facts.
don't even know if he's a
And
president.
Facts.
just to clarify
They
here,
threw him out of a
Facts.
campaign like a dog. We don't
Facts.
even know.
This is
Is
his
he our
strength.
president? But
This-
we have a
they
president
told him to
who
turn up.
doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up.
They told him to
Just to
turn up.
clarify the
Let's
question,
go.
do you believe it's in the U.S. best interests for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished.
Let's
and
go.
Just get it
See
done.
how they trying to set him up?
Negotiate a deal.
You see what I'm
Because we
saying?
have to stop all of these
You see how they
human
trying to
lives
cross him up?
from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected. how
And
would you
then why
describe
should we?
Ukraine,
I'm not
and would it
saying
be
we
any
shouldn't,
different from what we're
but
seeing
why
from
should we
President Biden?
jump in that? That
Well,
ain't
first
got-
of
you see what
all,
I'm saying?
it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump
Nah,
says
that was
this war
double
will be
sworded.
over within
She
24
told
hours
him,
because he would just
yes.
give it up.
But
And
y'all
that's not
did
who
throw
we
that
are as
man out.
Americans. Let's
Y'all
understand
did
what
throw that
happened
man
here.
out.
I actually
Where is the
met with
president?
Zelensky
You not the
a
president
few
yet.
days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to define one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank.
Why is she
To
sharing
Poland and
American
Romania.
intelligence?
And through the work that I
Why
and others
is-
did,
y'all
we
think we
brought
just gonna
50
skip over that?
countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president and that we
I don't give a
understand
fuck
the
if you
importance
young,
of the
old,
greatest
black,
military
white, or
alliance the
purple.
world has ever
You are
known,
not gonna
NATO.
out-talk a black
And
woman.
what we have done
You are
to
not.
preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor
Okay.
and what you think is a
No,
friendship
no
with what is
offense
known to be a
to the
dictator
Polish, right?
who would eat you for
But
lunch.
why are we worried
Vice
about
President
them?
Harris, thank you. We've heard from both
Why
of you
are
on
we
Ukraine
worried
tonight,
about that?
Afghanistan
That
came
ain't
up
got
in the
nothing
last
to
hour.
fucking do
I
with us,
wanted to
man.
respond to something you said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute.
No, yeah, give him his
He'd be
minute.
sitting in Moscow,
Long neck
and he
bitch.
wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow, quiet, please. He would have been
Shut
sitting
motherfucker up.
in
See?
Moscow,
See what I'm saying?
much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. Got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate as soon as they left. Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about...
So you never met with Putin? You don't have that door open. See, you could, let me tell you something.
As a leader,
and this is what Trump is talking about. She is weak with the weak. He is strong with the strong. He is friends with the attack. He is friends with the attacker, and she is friends with the victim. You see what I'm saying?
Caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring
her lighting is better on her too. If you look, her side is brighter than his side. Her makeup is better too.
Of personal flattery.
You talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. In the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen, for years we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan.
No, bitch. She asked, do you have any responsibility?
And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And
which he fired. These are all the people that he fired.
Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved
y'all did the same thing.
Terrorists.
How the fuck you think they got all that shit?
Get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president,
I thought she was about to say this bitch ass nigga.
Because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the president of the United States to be commander.
Nah, bitch, this more than 2 minutes.
And this gets gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the
That's more than
respect
2
of
minutes,
the United
bitch.
States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations
thank
with the
you.
Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the
Facts.
fighting force
I
was
just
in
fucking
Afghanistan.
said
They
that.
don't bother doing that because
You see what I'm
they kill
saying?
our people all the time.
Yeah.
But I got involved. And
That's
Abdullah
what I said
is the
about
head of the
Putin, you heard
Taliban.
me?
He's still the head of the Taliban.
Putin the
And I
one
told
doing the
Abdullah, "Don't do
attacking.
it
He
anymore.
cool
You're
with
doing it
Putin.
anymore, you're gonna have problems." And he said, "Why do you send me a picture of my house?" I said, "You're gonna have to figure that out, Abdul." And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than that, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left
Cook.
$85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it.
Cook.
The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the
See how
worst
they be, you
with
know
the
what I'm saying?
And in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
Let's
Mr.
go.
President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote,
Here
"I
we
didn't
go.
know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known
And
as black."
I'm standing on that.
That's the bigger picture.
I'm standing on that.
Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't.
See,
I don't
they
care.
said, look at
I
these
don't care what she
questions.
is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less.
Right.
Whatever she
Right.
wants to be is okay with me.
Facts.
But those were your words. So I'm
I don't
asking,
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black,
Right.
that she
Right.
put out.
Then she was Spanish.
I'll say that.
Right.
And then I read that she was black. And
Facts.
that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's
Facts.
up to her. That's up to
Facts.
her.
President
Facts.
Harris, your thoughts on this?
Facts.
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragic.
Bitch.
Someone who
Ooh.
wants to be president, who has
Man, she
consistently,
cooking
over the
Trump,
course of
dog.
his career,
Give me that joke, dog.
attempted to use
She
racism
cooking my
to
dog,
manipulate.
right?
You know, I did believe that the vast
Yeah,
majority
he's sitting in
of
front
us
dog.
have so much more in common
She
with racism.
cooking my dog, bro.
This kind of approach that is just
Yeah.
constantly trying to divide us, and
Dog.
especially by race. And let's
He
remember,
cooking. She cooking,
remember
dog.
how it started.
She is fucking cooking. What's up?
Land, he owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York
She
Times
is cooking, dog.
calling for the execution of 5
He got that
young
cooking.
black
He
and
cooking
Latino
now,
boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5.
She,
Took
here
out
she
a
go.
full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
Oh, after they
And I
have a
think
baby,
the
you
American
can still go ahead and kill them.
Want better than that. Want better than this. Want someone who understands.
Come on,
as I
Trump.
do,
You
as
got
I
the. You this. This is the turning point in it. If he don't answer this right, he gonna lose. Cause she.
We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those.
That's way more than 2 minutes. They fucking cheating, dog.
Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency
They
in
cheating,
the history
dog.
of our country. There's never
They
been
giving
anything
her-
like it. They're
3
destroying
million.
our country.
A
And they come
little.
up with things like what she just said, going back many, many years, well, a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park fight. They admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back.
He coming, he can
50
cook,
years
Trump. Come on, nigga.
because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to build it again.
Yes,
It's gonna
sir.
be bigger, better, and stronger.
Make America great
They're
again.
destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And
Cook.
remember this.
Cook. He cooking
She
now.
is Biden. Here she's
Cook.
trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden.
Cook.
The worst inflation we've ever
Cook.
had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad.
Cook.
And she can't get away with that.
Cook. Cook.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
No, you
One
don't.
who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people.
We don't want an optimist. We want a realist. We don't want an optimist. We want a realist.
I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan.
Bitch, that is not the most critical stage.
Allowing people to be
It's
able
up
to
to- It's up to the age 5. Stupid.
Offering a help with down payment of
You ain't see what Dummy said,
$25,000 down payment assistance for
They have
first-time
abortion
home
after
buyers.
they have a baby.
That's the kind of conversation I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
and move
Harris.
forward.
No.
Thank you. Let's
No.
turn to policy. Let's
Shut
turn
up,
to
bitch.
policy.
We want a realist.
Let's turn to policy.
Nah, give him his minute.
To defund the police.
Yeah.
She has a plan to.
Shut up.
confiscate
It's not your turn no more, bitch.
She has a
You got to give him his minute. See, they cheating my dog, man. No, you know, he rebutted you. No, they letting her run. Yeah, take order. You don't run nothing. Long neck bitch.
You have failed to accomplish that.
Why
You
don't
now
want
say
to be
you're
on
going
it?
to keep
That's
that.
what
Well,
I'm saying. They ain't calling Trump on orange ass nigga.
Last
And
time
he
you said
can't
you
fight.
were working on it.
No,
So
that's
tonight,
true.
9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan? And can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy healthcare. Always was. It's not perfect.
Lousy.
And what I said,
Wow.
if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away.
Cook,
So
look.
I decided, and I told my people.
What
the
you
top
told
people,
us?
and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in this
What you told us?
We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so
What
did
you
they.
told
They got
us,
rid of
Trump?
Bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain.
Explain,
I had
Trump.
a choice to make.
Uh-huh.
Do I save it and make it as good as it can be,
Okay.
or do I let it rot?
And what you
And I
did, Trump?
saved it. I did the right
Let's
thing.
go. He Trump.
But
He cooking
it's
now.
still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people.
Yup.
And what we will do
It's
is
too
we're looking
expensive
at
for the
different
middle
plans.
class.
If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something. I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options which we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system.
Well, I need a,
2 years later,
Chuck.
you proposed a
What a
plan
Chuck,
to
what my
include
Chuck
a
did.
private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point.
No, bitch, nah, they cheating. That we moved on. No, bitch.
And then this business about taking everyone's guns away.
She going back on an old topic. They letting her cheat. And then look how good her life is. Now look how dog kids is.
That's how he look.
No,
That's how the fuck
that's
he
how
look.
they
He
playing
ain't
it.
getting no tag. He ain't getting no tag.
Look,
That
that's
boy is
makeup.
hard.
That's makeup.
It ain't our fault his makeup, her makeup, all this ain't. And
No,
he's
they trying to make her look like us. She not like us.
She's not dark skinned either. She's not light skinned
It's
either.
probably in minor. Her right there. That's the minor. Right there. Right there. That's the minor.
Chill.
That's who killed
That's why he can't say nothing over there looking like a dumb. Dumb. Big dumb.
Because he got caught. He was
Yeah,
an American hero.
he fight back. Fight back, Trump.
He survived. He's trying to survive.
And he just fight back, Trump.
He dare you. He's trying to survive.
Fight back, T. Rizzo. She is, though. I can't lie. I can't lie.
To deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell people watching tonight. You remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices. On behalf of
You better.
Your
daughter
Come on.
I'm proud. I'm proud.
Come on. $20. Come on. Come on, $20. Come on.
I'm jumping too. How come niggas don't get me?
Come on, get out of the way.
Come on.
Wait.
Y'all jumping the pool. That's all I had. I'm joking. I don't get that pool.
Oh, you good.
John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It was all the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what?
Put the black bag in
We can do much better than Obamacare. Much less money. But she will improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want. Pay privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money and they want to private. She wants everybody to be in government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need to be with.
Oh, they keep cutting my. Let him cook, man. What?
President Trump
Come on, man.
the environment. You say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is
How?
very
And he did the right, but at the same time, he don't want to get the funding to the windmills and all that shit.
You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy.
$1 trillion fucking dollars, but they got a tent city under everybody fucking bridge, everybody downtown in the whole country.
1,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up.
He did too.
Around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to
That's
have
'cause
the
of
endorsement
COVID.
United Auto Workers and Sean
I
Fay,
break this
who
TV
also
in
know that part of building a clean energy economy includes
I took my
investing
TV from
in American
because you know we had one in the
products,
trunk.
American
Yeah.
It took
automobiles.
forever to take it out.
includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
For COVID.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell
Yeah,
you.
let that man cook, man.
Manufacturing jobs this
He can't,
last
he
month.
get his ass tore.
It's going.
Nah, he cook, he fight, he cooking now.
Building big auto plants in
Let's go.
Mexico, in many cases owned by China.
Uh.
They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to
Cook,
China
nigga.
is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
Down the tube.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
Baywatch is a fantasy. Baywatch was sexy. Baywatch was the best show in the world. You hear that theme song? It was a wild time, and I was a wild chick. Jason Momoa exploded.
Carmen was a bombshell.
Emma was the sweet girl from Canada who came to get the American dream.
Take y'all little chuck. Y'all can really see. Looking, you hear me? Yeah, man. Niggas could see this and see that, right? So me, them bitches cheating though, but I don't really got no clock, you hear me? But for whoever else clocking it, you hear me? Oh, they giving Kamala way more time to cook, you hear me? And they cutting Trump off, you know what I'm saying? And it's like this is, you can't tell it's biased, you know what I'm saying? But if you're paying attention, it is kind of biased, like, you know what I'm saying? And the questions are kind of more catered to Kamala, you see what I'm saying? She is getting more time. They're not letting Trump use his minute to rebuttal, you know what I'm saying? Hold up. I'm gonna tell you like this, right? This shit gonna be like battle rap, you heard me? Like a Sue Surf third round, you heard me? People be so mesmerized that Sue Surf come with a third round that it don't even gotta be good. So people was expecting Trump to 30 up, which means 3-0, you heard me? She came in doing good. She came in swinging. She came in strong. She didn't back down. She's not scared of Trump, you see what I'm saying? But I'm still not sold on her being the next president, you see what I'm saying? She don't even know who she is, you see what I'm saying? So how she gonna identify with the whole country? She don't even know who the fuck she is. I say, you heard me? Trump cooking, he cooking, but it's like you can really tell that he's been out of the office. Like she fresh, you know what I'm saying? She, like she said, she's the ambassador, you know what I'm saying? So she's going to meet and discuss foreign policies. You see what I'm saying? She's she's in the know of what's really going on right now. Trump is just yeah. But that breeze, you know, I got asthma and shit. But Trump is just going off of people like she's going off of facts. Trump is going off of hearsay. You see what I'm saying? So she does have the advantage. You heard me? Her answers are better, or they're full because she has more access to the stats. She has more access to the information. You see what I'm saying? She has more access to those numbers that he doesn't. So basically, in a sense, all he can do is speculate. You hear me? Which would not be held up in the court of law. But she's doing a lot of speculating too, and you know, leading on. You know what I'm saying? You cannot paint a picture. Well, I'm just going off the court of law. You cannot paint a picture for the jury. The jury has the. You see what I'm saying? That's what they say. That badgering a witness or relevance. You see what I'm saying? Some of the shit she's saying is not relevant to the question, but it is relevant to the whole debate. So she is fucking. She is playing chess. She's playing chess. They got her lighting better. You heard me?
And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is
see how her lighting, and they just depicting her in a better, you know what I'm saying? They presenting her in a better light, in a better, all her camera, you know what I'm saying? They got her angles popping, you know what I'm saying?
Bringing down the cost of living.
They got the right complex of makeup on her so it can shine. Come on, man.
That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world.
We already got that.
That will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have
hold on, TD.
Tell her what to do.
You got grandchildren.
I'll tell you,
that ain't even your fight. Come on now.
I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked
that was cool, y'all.
Victim
that one client, that was cool, y'all. That bitch full of it, but that was cool.
Are you okay?
What you about to cry for? She is like, here come, y'all see this shit?
You and is not putting
man
first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10
No, bitch. What you gonna do for us?
Build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President
you
Harris,
lying. She lying. Get her, Trump. Cook, nigga.
She's going to do this. She's going to
cook.
Do that. She's going to do all these wonderful things.
Uh-huh.
Why hasn't she done it?
Let's go.
She's been there for 3.5 years.
Let's go.
They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in.
Like what?
You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not.
America great again.
We're back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a
We are.
nation that's in serious decline.
Inflation.
We're being laughed at all over the world.
We are.
All over the world, they laugh. I know the leaders very
They
well.
are.
They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over
Yep.
the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a
They
nation.
people
We're
respect
not a
power.
leader. We don't have any idea what's going on.
Facts. We don't
wars
have no
going on in the
identity.
Middle East. We have wars going on
Facts.
with
He
Russia
cooking.
and Ukraine.
He
We're going to
cooking.
end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of
He
weaponry.
cooking.
I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What
Yup.
these people have
Cook.
done to our country,
Cook,
and maybe
nigga.
toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
That's fact. All
President
facts, no
Trump,
copies.
Thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here.
Oh, y'all know I'm about to come on. I'm about to get off the stream and I'm gonna come on the regular page. I'm about to hit OG up and I'm about to recap.
ABC News. Good night.
From us damn street niggas, we ain't really comfortable with all of that attention. That's what you trying to say.
Do what you do, baby.
Yeah, I want congrats. I seen to come up through the mud. You feel me?
Real.
Yeah. I'm saying, like I said, I used to be top. I'm one of the ones. When that nigga said he had a phone, his whole joke, and I'm looking at the screen like preach. Cause I was on the phone with him, you feel me? So you know what I'm saying?